Yes. It is the Cast-Worthy podcast back in your earwaves. Um, it is Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. I am Big Steve, aka Last of a Dying Breed, on the Twitter machine, joined by the VP of Research and EJ. Who knows what he's calling himself nowadays? Savage, Single Savage, uh, Chucky. I dem be dem Bella. Aha. Yeah, man. Castworthy Podcast back at you here. You can find us anywhere where you get your podcast content. Biggest outlets at this point for us are Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and now broadcasting video cast of all recordings on YouTube. So yeah, follow us, like us, comment, rock with us, give us your feedback. Tell us what the fuck you want to hear us talk about. Tell us what the fuck you like to talk about, so we can address it. All of the above. My boys, man, what's good? What's going on?
Hey, man, it's Wednesday. We're here. We're alive. Thank God. Keep it going. Yeah.
Not much, man. Just chilling. Trying to hang in there. Had a little bit of a situation this weekend. So you guys know my son bowls. He's getting really good at his bowling. Very productive with his coach, etc.
Factuals.
So he has a tournament this weekend. We drive down there, get him signed up and everything like that. They start bowling, and they got to bowl 5 games to make a cut. And the director of this particular tournament, he posts the scores after each game and then shows you where each individual kid is, because they only take the top 12 after the 5 games, right?
Right.
So we're looking, and you can see the kids' names, but sometimes you don't know who the kids are. Like, some of them got their names on their shirts, some don't. So there's this one kid who's in first place, and we're looking for him, and we finally see him. And one is not a kid. This guy is probably like 18, 19. That's the first thing. But the issue came in at this kid has an average of like 112. And Steve kind of understands how this works, and EJ as well to some degree. But for the listeners, like in bowling, what they do is they take your average, and whatever that number is, they subtract it from 200. Make sure you guys pay attention. There's gonna be a test later. They subtract it from 200, and then that becomes your handicap, right? So, like, let's say your average is 100. That means you get a 100 handicap. So if you went out there and bowled like a 150 game, it's like you bowled a 250, right? Because they add on that 100 handicap. You see what I'm saying? So this kid is getting like 80 something pins in handicap, but because his average is 112, right? But this motherfucker's bowling like 250s, 190s, like just killing it, right? And when the motherfucker bowls the 250, right, he's not even like shocked. Like, most kids, they get that first high game. Oh, mom, look what I did. He's not even excited because he's been there before, right? They say when you're a champ, you got to act like you've been there before. Right. You know what I'm saying? And this motherfucker ends up in first place at the cut, and then he kills it in the second round. But since my kid didn't make the second round, we left after that. So I don't know if he won the tournament or not. So we get home, and because we got the score sheets, you can go onto the bowling website, bowl.com, and you can just put the person's name in and the state they bowl in, and it pulls up their information. So we looked this kid up. This motherfucker's averages from 2018. He bowled 48 games in 2018 and no league play since then. So he's essentially using this old ass shitbag average to increase the handicap and then showing up to the tournaments to kill it, right? So it made me think, like, why the fuck is there parents out there allowing their children to basically do that kind of scumbag shit to win? They're essentially cheating to win. Like, why would you allow your child to, dabber in mediocrity? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Hmm.
Um. Yeah. So, man, this is a topic that can, it can go many different ways, right? When we talk about there's fucking all these participation trophies and shit out there nowadays, you know what I'm saying? Where people get recognized no matter what, right? So, if you're looking at, some people are going to be like, oh, you look at the bigger picture, they're getting recognized all the time. That works for their self-esteem, but we know that they're better. They can get the scholarship money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I'm with you on it though. I would never tell my kid not to try his best at any fucking time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to go out there, you want to put your best foot forward at any time, man. You want to, when you bowl, whether it's for league play, whether it's for um tournament money, no matter what it is, you should put your best foot forward, because you never know, what opportunities come from that specific game. Um, you got people that are just bullshit, man, that are just out there. It's unfortunate that, that somebody would feel comfortable telling their kid, hey, go out there and sandbag, right? That's basically what it's called. It's sandbagging, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Um, and it's no better than it's basically like Billy Hoyle from White Men Can't Jump. That's what the fuck they doing.
Yeah.
Come out there, look goofy as shit, and Sidney Dean will be like, give me the white guy, give me the chump, man, give him the chump. You know, um, while there's opportunity there, and people may not see anything wrong with it. Morally, that's some fucked up shit. I just couldn't. For me, I couldn't see it. But I'm also a very competitive person.
So this goes well. First and foremost, I think these bowling tournaments need to use the scratch scores. Is it Steve or the POA or whatever that is? I forget.
Right?
It's been a long time. Um,
Scratch.
scratch and your or do the percent over average or whatever. It's ways in bowling that you can eliminate that shit. I just don't remember. It's been a long time since I bowled consistently in the league, but that's first and foremost. Stop having those bullshit tournaments. But this goes to the parenting piece that we see often in football, and in other sports where you have parents that are putting their kids in underage situations, um, not underage situations, but they're making them younger than what they're supposed to be with fake documentation, all types of stuff. So you're looking at parents who are basically hawking these tournaments to ensure that their kid is going to win every single time, when clearly the kid has, in this instance, some ability to actually win. But these obsessive parents trying to live through their kid are doing anything and everything to win, and like you guys said, it's really shitty. It takes the integrity of the game away. You're already teaching them that you don't have to do anything in life but get over on other people and win, and it's acceptable. um so yeah, tons of failed life lessons there, and it impacts other kids who actually are trying and working hard throughout the year to win. So that sucks. I think it's definitely a teachable moment for TJ, in the sense to say, we ain't gonna do that shit. We gonna live by integrity. You a young black man. You gonna get it by the mud, through the mud, like they say these days, and just let them know that you have, with all of that, with all that you're facing, people with lack of integrity and all the other things, you're still gonna do your thing. But yeah, man, it's a shitty thing, and these tournaments need to do better to eliminate the ability and the prospect of that even happening. Because I remember when I was coming up bowling, you had a handicap throughout the year, but I remember, like, tournament times, we didn't use handicap. Whatever you got was what you got. So They need to get rid of that bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was crazy too was that yesterday that it kind of kind of had a glaring example of it kind of hit me in the face because he came home from school yesterday. They got report cards, right? And so he brings in his report card, and it's the best report card he's ever got, like since he's been a student. And the thing that we ended up having the problem with was that in one of his classes last semester he got an A, and this semester dropped to a B. And so when I'm talking to him about it, he's looking at me, and even my wife is looking at me like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this report card is awesome. And I'm like, yo, you had an A and now it's a B. Like, what's going on? And he's like, it's a B. Like, that's a good grade. And I'm telling him like, yeah, that's a good grade, but you've gone down now. You know what I'm saying? So we need to address that. And after having that conversation with him, it made me think about this whole situation that happened over the weekend, because like while things were going on, my wife is friends with one of the other parents, and she was saying how she heard a parent from our youth league that he bowls in on every Saturday morning telling her son, like during that first month where they're kind of bowling to get their average for the year, to basically, bowl bad on purpose. So that just until they take averages, because they're going to use whatever they take for average, they use it for the entire season for tournament purposes, right? So the mom essentially told her kid, yeah, just bowl bad these first 4 weeks, and then you can turn it on after they take your average. And I'm like, what the fuck, yo? Like, what are you teaching your kids, yo?
That's that Lauren
Yeah.
Laughlin fucking Aunt Becky shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you create, man. This pattern actually, I see it daily when working with people who have been incarcerated or are currently incarcerated and committing crimes, and you see this type of pattern of acceptance of getting over that, if mixed with the wrong type of thing, say substance abuse down the line, just criminal activity, you have now created this element that you're telling your kid to lack integrity going forward, and it's very dangerous. It's very scary, because this is where you get people that start to do things and they make excuses for why they are doing it, and they're learning it at this age. So that's very scary, very truly scary. And that's how you get people, like Steve once said, get people on your job that really aren't qualified and don't know a damn thing, but they got the job somehow, lying on the resume, lying through school. So God forbid we have these kids in the operating room one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's cheating, right? You know what I mean? You're teaching your kid that it's okay to cheat. It's okay to bend the rules, right? Because that's really what it is, bending the rules. The rules say you go out there, you bowl all year, you come in and you finish bowling. So ultimately, right, what you can probably do is you can have your kid bowl in unsanctioned leagues for 2 years straight. And that's probably what they did with this kid, right? They probably had him
Mm-hmm.
bowl in 2018. He had a low average. He bowled like shit. They got him in with a coach, bought him new equipment, had him bowl consistently, maybe every weekend or whatever the case may be. And then came in now, fast forward 2019, 2020, hasn't bowled anything sanctioned, so his average hasn't been updated. And instead of having him go establish somewhere in a sanctioned league and then come bowl these tournaments, they came out and they were just unethical and said, hey, his book average is 130 or whatever the fuck it is. You know what I'm saying? Even though he's
Mm.
a
Yeah.
200 bowler. So it's crazy that people would go to that great length for that type of shit. You know what I mean? For what? End of the day, like, what are you teaching your kid? And if your kid walks out of there a winner, they know that how they got it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they came out there, they put their
Yeah.
best foot forward and beat the best. They came out there with some bullshit fucking average, and they won, right? Because they had a unfair advantage. So, um, yeah. Shitty parenting, man. Shitty parenting. Scumbags out there in this world.
Yeah.
I was just scrolling. I know we had an agenda, but I was just scrolling, man, and we have a new hero, dude. Little Boosie. Little Boosie bumped into George Zimmerman outside of Walmart in Miami and put the paws on him. He was arrested.
Oh,
Yes.
What?
Yeah, Little Boosie.
damn.
I was
I
just
saw something
reading.
about that.
Yeah, I was just reading the article. Apparently, he bumped into him. The article was from yesterday, the 14th. And since it's kind of on the fly, let me not get wrong information. But there was a part in there where it said that he left him knocked out cold. Um, and yeah,
Little
he was arrested for it.
hands on him.
He put the paws on him, and so he is a hood hero right now. He's a hero to the community, one might say.
Amen.
Yeah. Let me pull it up real quick. Here
Hopefully
it
he
is.
doesn't do too. Hopefully he doesn't do any real serious time because he has a record. So,
Yep.
while
Yeah.
assaulting Zimmerman is phenomenal, hate to see another brother go down, especially when it's for a piece of scum like Zimmerman.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um.
And then Zimmerman probably gonna sue him.
You know it.
So it says, yeah, he will. So it says, Lil Boosie apparently got into a very violent fight with George Zimmerman. Um. He was in prison during the entire Trayvon Martin case, but was informed about the trial by his manager, who believed George Zimmerman got away with murdering a young innocent child, as he put it. This morning, after seeing each other at Walmart in Miami, Little Boosie allegedly knocked Zimmerman out cold and was rushed to a hospital after he began suffering a seizure.
Ooh, damn.
Little Boosie from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was visiting Miami for a quick interview with the local radio station. So,
Damn.
right.
Damn, he started
So,
seizing. That's oof. I wonder
Yeah,
his
it's
medical
tough.
condition now, because that would be crazy for Boozy, man.
Yeah.
yeah. He said, so,
I'm
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I'm not one for vigilante justice or anything like that, man. But you know, sometimes, man, a motherfucker just has it coming, yo. And Zimmerman did that shit, and like me and Steve have debated Trayvon's situation back and forth, like we don't got to go there, but although I think that the Zimmerman case was wrongly decided, and I overall don't agree with the stand your ground laws that allowed Zimmerman to get off for killing, Trayvon Martin. At the end of the day, we have a way of justice in this country, and he faced a jury, and the jury, found him innocent. Um, but you watch the shit that this dude has done, going on radio shows and Fox News, and like just shitting on this dead kid, shitting on his parents. Now he's suing the parents, and he auctioned off the gun that he killed him with, like it was some fucking trophy and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And even though everything I said, before this, I'm like, I don't think vigilante justice, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, this motherfucker had it coming, yo.
Sure. Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
as I always say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. You got it.
I was just finishing up. I
Ladies
was
first.
gonna yeah, that's why I tried to let you go. But it's it said that he bumped into him. There was witnesses that said that he bumped into him, saw him outside of Walmart, was like, "Ain't you that motherfucker that killed Trayvon Martin, right?" And he approached him and said he approached him violently, and it said it appeared that George Zimmerman was reaching for a gun, right? And then the scuffle ensued. Said Boozy walked away with some some war wounds as well. You know what I mean? But Yeah, I mean, and the story, although he did although he did initiate it, right? If he was reaching for his gun and he hadn't been assaulted, he didn't fear for his life. There's no stand your ground there, right? So now was Boosie standing his ground because it appeared that he was reaching for a weapon.
Based on or go ahead, EJ. You was getting ready to get in there.
No, I mean we can only hope that in this instance it plays out to where there's some favor to Boosie's actions in this manner. And it'll all be questionable, it'll all be debatable in the scheme of things, whether or not he fell within the law, because again, with the stand your ground law, it's subjective to the person that's pulling the gun and doing all of that nonsense, and how they claim to feel, and the threat. Yeah, again, finding out that new information, hopefully it bodes well for Boosie's case. And at this point, all I can do is hope that no major legal ramifications are faced by him. And again, like we said before, Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman will forever be inked in American history. It's traumatic just even thinking about it. And VP, you're 100% right. um I kind of in a lot of ways do believe in vigilante justice. And he had it coming.
Yeah, I can agree there. Um, I just wanted to get that in there because I because I saw that on the timeline. So yeah. Um, moving forward, VP, you said you saw something about some little hussy, some little thotty thotty McThots a lot out here reaching out trying to hand her goods over to somebody. You got the details on that story?
Yeah, man. So the singer, the Australian singer Sia, she was doing an interview recently, and she was talking about basically no strings attached sex, being able to hook up, smash, and not have to have a relationship, and she was talking about it in terms of a guy that she works with. I guess he's like a producer. This guy named Diplo, and so she was talking to GQ magazine, and she essentially said that she hit him up on a text, and she said, I'm looking down at my phone to read it, but she hit him up on text, and she basically said, hey, listen, you're like one of the 5 people that I'm sexually attracted to, and now that I've decided to be single for the rest of my life, and I just adopted a son, I don't have time for a relationship. So if you're interested in some no string sex, hit me up. And so people
Yeah,
were kind of
that's how they
people were
giving
kind
it up
of
in Australia.
yeah, I guess so, man. They on fire over there.
I see
So
what you did there.
Good one, good one.
So yeah, man. So people kind of were kind of talking about it and saying, like, is this the right thing to do? Like, is she out of line? Is this like the new, it's just like the new generation thing? Like, so what do you guys think?
I'm sure there's EJ is a single one, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that a lot of men that wished that more women were like this. I mean, all we hear about from Me Too, etc. The feminists is women deserve to be treated equally, yada yada yada, but it's still a man's job to, in most cases, approach a woman in our society. It's still a man's job to ask a woman to marry him. All of that, all of the old school shit. Like nobody sits back and is like, even though it's tradition, that shit is fucking sexist too. If you look at it from that standpoint, right? And you know, if you're talking about we shouldn't judge women for going out and sleeping around, which a lot of people are saying now, they should be treated just as equal as men that decide to go out there and slang the dang. It's, the I don't see anything wrong with it, right? And if she's a single woman, she needs the itch scratched. She should be able to reach out to homie and be like, "Listen, man, no string." Now, if he's in a relationship, which we don't know those deets, that's could be a little bit different. But listen, I can tell you right now, I know I got some single friends, including my cousin EJ, the Savage over here, who I'm sure he would he would welcome those types of offers, even if you end up turning some of them down.
No, you hit everything on the head that I was gonna say. Today's day and age, we're promoting the equality and all of that. So I've never been a person, and I can honestly say throughout my life, I've never been a person who ever, maybe maybe it was just me. I don't know, but I never really judged women for doing men like things. I guess for bad, lack of better words. So I've never been that judgmental in that element. I think it's always been for me when I see the women emotionally dog a man, which both genders do. But of course, I would feel it more from the male's perspective. But I think you're in this instance, I think you're absolutely right. With the movement of women being able to do what men do, I see nothing wrong with this. This is actually very common practice in the single world today. It's almost like hitting the scratch off every now and then when it happens. And and it happens, man. Like, I mean, it happens. And sometimes it's kind of like you get thrown off by it, but I think it does save the emotional angst, the lying, the nonsense. If you just say, "Hey, man, I just want to smash," and let it be that. Now, does it ever stick to that? That's where the gray area comes in. But again, I have no problem here with this at all. I don't even know why she made it big news. Do your thing, you know. I'm with it.
I'd like to hear
Yeah,
some women's side.
I definitely agree with what both of y'all said, and just from a personal story, one of my homeboys, one of my best friends from the time that I was in the Marines, he actually was involved with a girl this way. He basically went out to a club one weekend, Friday, Saturday night, something like that, and he met this girl. They exchanged numbers, and then he hit her up the next day or a couple days later, whatever. And he's on the phone and he's trying to like spit game and shit like that. And she told him straight up, she was like, "Look, she's like, I got a kid, I got a job, I don't have time for no relationship. I'm looking for somebody. Like, I call you, you come through, we do our thing, and you take your ass home." And he was like, you know.
Right.
And so that was basically their relationship for a while. And then to EJ's point at the end that he was making, after maybe 5-6 months of that, just come through, smash, go home kind of thing, she was like, "Hey, I like the way we're doing things, but maybe, we can go have dinner or something like that." And he was like, "All right, cool. I've been hitting it for a while, so it's all me, we can get a meal." And next thing you know, he had a girlfriend.
Yep. Yep. That right there is the gray area. And whether women want to acknowledge or admit it or not, and this is anecdotal because I haven't done any full research on it, but what typically tends to happen, men, we are visual, we're physical, we can be more rational and practical, whereas many times, and many times they're often have been proven to be, women will get emotionally attached, and that this thing goes out the window. And I have several friends of mine that talk about messing with the girl they used to mess with at one point, and we're not friends anymore, but then we become friends again. And then the girl's like, oh yeah, well we can do this. I got guys I'm talking to. I know you got girls you talking to. And then, after a couple of weeks, this is bullshit. You didn't pick up your phone. Like I don't want to do this anymore. We can't have sex anymore if we're not together. So it's now there are some women out there that really can just do it, cut dudes off, not even care. You know what I mean? But very often do you see the opposite where emotions get involved. So, but I mean, luckily for you guys are married. Being single out here, while it is good on one front, it is something you kind of have to be cognizant of, because at some stage in your life as men, you might decide you want more. And it's really hard to tell. Like Steve was saying, you know, we're still in the role where we have to do so much of the legwork. We have to do so much of the initiation of whatever it's gonna be. The courting. That's another thing. I know dudes that are saying, I'm not dating women no more. It ain't no point because I know what I want. They need to know what they want. I'm not going out spending hundreds of dollars while we're lying to each other in each other's faces, trying to make some fake love connections that's not gonna last. So I think that while this element is well welcomed by many single men, it still is something for men to keep on their radar because you're gonna have women out here like this that really mean what they say in this, and they really don't want anything to do with you. So you gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. I applaud her for being open and honest and direct, and I hope he knocks it down.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest thing at this point uh in the conversation is what made her think like she could just run out there and be like, "Hey, come get these goodies," right? So has there been have they had chemistry? Have they made the advances? Has he joked with her, right? And then not only that, she's putting it out there like she's putting out there innocent, like, oh, I just wanted some dick. What if he would have like taken offense to that, or what if he would have reported it as, because that's right, sexual harassment, right? Um, how would he be viewed? And that's the thing. People, again, nowadays when we're talking about equal rights and treating people the same and treating the sexes fairly, a woman comes out and they can do that. If that was the shoe on the other fucking foot, and he was just like, hey, I know you just adopted and you've been saying that you're not getting into no relationships, but you coming in the studio with them little poom poom shorts on and you giving me a semi, can I come knock off the dust off of that ass real quick? you know, and she's like, "Oh my god, how dare he?" You know what I'm saying? Then it's frowned upon. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, we live in a double standard society, man,
I
and go ahead.
No, I definitely feel you. There's definitely a double standard, and I think part of it comes from the fact that um in society it's women who have basically exclusivity to say whether or not there's gonna be sex, right? So it's not like, like a dude is not gonna hit up a chick and be like, hey, I've been single, I just adopted a kid, so I don't really have time for a relationship. So if you want some no strings attached wood, just come through, and like you said, Steve's gonna be like, oh my god, you know what I mean? But but since women kind of have, that power to say whether or not sex is gonna happen, and it's not to say that men can't say no, but you understand what I'm saying. So I think
Yeah.
that's why something like that is not necessarily frowned upon. But also, to a point that EJ has made and things that we've talked about on this podcast, when you talk about that like toxic masculinity and shit like that, if he had did that, people would have been like, "Oh, he gay," "Oh, he oh, come on, dog," all that kind of shit like that.
Yep.
So, it's kind of crazy, like all around.
Yep. I agree there. 100%, man. Um, I hope he knocked it down though. I mean, she got them gold she got the golden pipes, You know, I mean, she must keep the throat nice and moisturized. You gotta keep it.
Oh
Oh
my
man. Listen,
god.
she's a singer, dog. She gotta protect the goods. Oh man. Shit. EJ, what if if a young harlot came up to you and was like you know, you've been I see you on the train every day, riding through, listening to Joe Budden podcast, dozing off, and
I can't say that if a random one did that, that I would jump at the opportunity outright, and I don't know you, and you're just talking about smashing. However, I can say it has happened to me, a youngin that I knew
mm.
for some time, and had no idea that they felt this way. Shot their shot and pretty much told me, "Yo, what's good? I want to know what it is." And I had to oblige. Had to oblige. It's only right. It's only right. And I could say wasn't no issues. Wasn't no issues. There were multiple exchanges after that, and we are good friends still. I'll leave it at that.
I would expect nothing less from you.
Hey, I mean, equal rights, man. Who am I? Who am I in 2019 and 2020 to deny her right as a woman to demand what she wants? That would be selfish of me. That would be
Right?
sexist of me to say no. Just saying.
Yeah, you have to assume she knows what she wants, right? Assume,
There you go.
assumption. Um, wow. To be single in 2020.
Yeah, you know.
And now they talking about they got a cure to AIDS too. Shit. No need to say no more. All right. You might get the gift that keeps on giving, little herpy bump here and there, a little something popping up on the lip, but um it's okay as long as it's fun. Um you guys watch the games this weekend? You actually I know you guys watched the game this weekend. It was Upset City. Upset City. What's the temperature like out there in B more EJ?
Man, man, I gotta tell you. So Saturday, I'm excited. Number one, I was excited number one because the game was Saturday night and it wasn't Sunday night. So I'm like, I can go out, I can drink, do what I want to do. I can wake up tomorrow and feel like whatever. So I'm riding around, I'm hitting up my boys. Jermaine is in Jersey. Other cat is booed. Other two cats are booed up or MIA, whatever. So I hit my man Sam up, and he's like, "Yo, I'm getting on this party bus," and I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm down." I get on the party bus, pay my money to get on there, bring my bottle. It's like four guys, all women, and it's like 15 of us, and it's like one married couple, everybody else single. Sam is married. Is me and another dude that's single. So that's how this starts off. And then we wind up going from one place. So I Ubered there. We wound up going to like the middle of the city to literally back to my house, like the area around my house. And we go to this club that's basically tied to the Comedy Factory, which is tied to a hotel. And I tell you, it's hundreds of people in there. It's hundreds of people in there. All types of women, just beautiful women. It's more women in there than guys. It's nuts. It's cigars, it's liquor, it's nuts, man. And I'm enjoying it. And I'm like, you know what? The whole ride on the bus, I'm like, these motherfuckers are gonna lose. They're gonna lose. And I get there and I see all of this going, and I'm like, damn, now I know these motherfuckers are gonna lose. Cause the whole city was hype, just knew they were going to the Super Bowl. And I'm pissed because I'm like, if they make it to the next round, I get to come back and do this again. But no, they lose. And the mood was just, everybody was just fucked up. And it was just like it felt so bad. The city just felt so bad. And then that night is when we had 13 shootings and 5 deaths. So yeah, man, it just was, it was bad. But I think a lot of them were kind of happy in the sense that this is a second year quarterback. You know, they were able to hang their hat on a 14-2 season. Granted that no one figures this offense out next year. They have a lot of promise for the future, but they definitely were pissed and thought they were going to the Super Bowl this year. And you know, I was starting to get to like how the city was feeling because I was here the last time we won the Super Bowl here, and it was a great moment for the city. So yeah, it's really disappointing up here, but you know, I think they've gotten over it by now.
I mean, it's good to have that feeling that they feel like, you know, we got a young squad, we got a young quarterback, the future's nothing but the future ahead of him, etc. But I'm pretty sure Rams fans felt that way too, and we
Mhm.
see how this year went, you know. So you know that shit ain't promised, yo. But but yeah, I was extremely surprised, and the number one reason that I was surprised is that because of who's at the helm for the Tennessee Titans. You guys know, as a Dolphins fan, I've watched Tannehill his entire career, and I think that he still sucks. You know, the sun shines on the dog's ass every now and then. Um, so, but yeah, I was extremely surprised that if Tennessee won that game, I had them losing. So you know, I'm not gonna make it seem like I knew it was coming. You know, I had Baltimore winning.
Me too.
If Tennessee did win that game, I thought it would end up being close, where like maybe Tennessee caught a late drive, kicked the field goal, or you know, returned a last minute kick kind of joint, something like that. I did not know that Tennessee would give the Baltimore the business, you know. And after it happened, the initial question that I started asking is, was it the rest? Was it having that time off? You know, and we know all teams do that, but I think where it particularly hurt Baltimore is that you had a team in Tennessee. Not only did they play the wild card game the week before, Tennessee has essentially been in playoff mode for the month of December because they had to win to get in, and then they had to win that wild card game and then play Baltimore. So they've been in playoff mode for like 6 weeks now, whereas Baltimore was on vacation for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And I think that resting their starters, even though I think it was the right idea, but it really looked like it hurt them. That rust looked real.
Yeah. They should have played them in week 17, even if it meant, sitting them at halftime. Um, that could have at least kept them there a little bit. But also, with Baltimore, I think part of what contributed to their loss is they didn't have a healthy Mark Ingram. I mean, I don't even think he was 50%. They let him go, and we talk about it all the time. You have to save players from themselves, and I don't think from the way he looked, I don't think he should have been out there, man. He looked like shit. His left calf, if you go back and watch just replays or Google it, it looked like almost double the size of his other calf. And so I don't know if it was a tear or a strain, but that he was not ready to go. And so,
Mhm.
and the other thing too, with Baltimore, and we talked about it, is they're not used to coming from behind, right? Pause. They've been fucking playing from ahead since week 1 against Miami when they came out and fucking just started laying it on teams, right? And so Now you have a quarterback who's only in his second year of development, who people are still doubting, or were still doubting, right? Um, and a lot of his game was geared around running and the run pass option and shit like that, where it turned into that game looking a lot like Miami when they were running the Wildcat, because he was catching and he was going. You know, um, Mark Andrews was almost taken out, and that's what you risk when you play against a team with a good defense. And Tennessee's defense is showing up, and they've been good. They might have been able to get away with that with a declining defense or a lesser defense. Even like Kansas City, they probably would have gotten off better with Kansas City if it was Baltimore, Kansas City. But Tennessee's defense is good, and when you have a Vrabel in there who's he's a defensive guy. He played defense for a long time. He's going to be able to read that stuff. He's going to be able to teach those guys how to read and watch the tape. And like you said, VP, it is extremely important that they've been playing. They've been playing hard, and they've been playing back against the wall. The last time Baltimore played, it was either way, we win or lose, we're gonna make the playoffs. But if we win, we'll have a number one seed, and we get to sit down 2 weeks before we even see anybody, and then we have no clue who we're seeing, right? So now you have 2 weeks of prep time, and you don't even know what team you're prepping for, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't know until the week ahead that now Tennessee is that team, and without a shadow of a doubt, 100% they underestimated Tennessee. 100%, because everybody in the United States did. And I can imagine how much money was lost on that game, because Baltimore, nobody had Tennessee beating them. I'm sure there's two sides of the coin. One side of the coin is fucking 95% of the people in America lost money who were betting. Some people lost the farm and the house because they were thinking it was a sure thing, and 5% won because they're Tennessee fans. They live in Tennessee and they're betting people. And you probably got that one dude that's like a super Tennessee fan that put his whole fucking life on it, and is now wealthy off of that one fucking game thanks to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So yeah, huge upset there though.
I'm gonna
Huge
say
upset.
something real quick on that, and then we can go to the next one. Um, yeah, the Ravens in the city. The hunger that they started out with in the beginning of the season definitely faded by the end. They got too cocky. This team was no longer hungry, which is completely their DNA. Their DNA and Harbaugh's coaching style and DNA is just hunger. And the 14-2 really got to their heads, as you pointed out. The defense playing from behind, pause, was also a factor because they're used to getting out on teams very early and being so dynamic offensively. And even still, Lamar Jackson threw for over 300 yards and ran for over 100 yards. But this defense all year, if you look back at scores, this defense is all year has given up 20 something points all year, and they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the run very often against a lot of teams, and this Titans team was built for that. This Ravens team, I think, up front on the defense is the weakest that I've seen it in years, and there was no interior pressure. There was no one to put a body on Derrick Henry. So this was the perfect storm for them to lose. I didn't think they were gonna lose up until game time, because I was just like, something is just Murphy's law. When it all can go wrong, it's just gonna go wrong. But yeah. So definitely, I agree with you guys.
And ultimately,
And
you see.
EJ,
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say real quick to EJ's point, Baltimore was getting up on people early, and when teams do that, the other team becomes one dimensional. They stop running. They got to start passing more to one, reserve the clock, and two, try to get them quick hits to catch back up in the game. So if Baltimore's run defense is already weak, and then they're not having to play run defense on top of that, then going against a guy who's a beast like Derrick Henry, you were opening yourself up to just be dominated.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Something similar to that is, you see the difference between a quarterback who can throw the ball, right, and a quarterback who, you know, throws the ball when necessary, right? And we saw the difference because Kansas City got out to they got in a big hole too, 24-0, right? And they were able to come from behind because Patrick Mahomes is a fucking court, and that's the difference. We always say it, right? We'd rather be a quarterback who can run than a running quarterback who can throw, right? Because a quarterback who can run can make a play with their legs if they need to be, or if they need to, right? Russell Wilson, fucking uh what's his fucking name? Pat
Aaron.
Mahomes, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, right? Those guys, they're specifically made for the pocket. They can throw on the run, but if they need to make the play with their legs, they can. Dak, same type of shit. But you have running quarterbacks who can throw, like a Lamar Jackson, like a Marcus Mariota. And those guys, they just don't pan out. The closest one that would have been closest to it, that we've seen was Michael Vick. Michael Vick was more of a runner than anything, and he just had a cannon. Um, but yeah, I mean, and Lamar Jackson, you know, he, there's nothing to take from him, right? People are taking credit from him and taking away the accomplishment of what he did this year. This is, he's still a very young guy. He's gonna get better. The offense is built around him. Ideally, if you look at their team, their fucking wide receiver crew is terrible. They got Hollywood Brown, and people were making so much out of that guy specifically because he's fast. And when you're fast like that and your quarterback can extend the play, you're gonna make those fucking catches. That's why you got guys like Tyreek Hill that are making those plays. You got Tyler Lockett making those plays, right? There's a fucking equation here, right? And the equation is you have a quarterback that can extend plays. You have a fast wide receiver that gives the wide receiver that extra 2 seconds to get past the defender, and now the quarterback just has to make the throw.
I'm gonna say for the Kansas City.
So Steve, no, I was just gonna say I agree with a lot. I agree a lot of with what you said, Steve, regarding the Kansas City game. The thing I think that happened in the Kansas City game, my brother who played football in college tells me I'm wrong as shit, but I believe this to my core. I think the Texans I think the Texans were gonna win that game up until the point in the second quarter when they went for it on fourth down on their own 30, right? They're up 24-0 and you go for a fake punt on your own 30, right? And I feel like that shit just lit the spark. Like Kansas City felt disrespected in their own house. And why'd they do that? Because the Texans coach, Bill O'Brien, comes out of the Bill Belichick win at any cost, ram it down your fucking throat school of coaching, right? We've seen Belichick do shit like this. And people say, oh, he's just trying stuff out for situations. And it's like, yo, you're up 42-10. Like, why are you going for it on fourth down? And Belichick, oh, we just had to try something. You know what I'm saying? And so he did that shit. KC scores, and it looks like, oh, they just score 1 point. We still up. But as soon as that happened, it's like the fucking momentum just completely shifted. And the whole game flipped on its head. I think if the Texans punt that ball and just played solid defense the way that they had been playing throughout the game, and granted, it was only one quarter and a few minutes into the second quarter, but I feel like they essentially lit the spark that blew their ass up.
I was gonna say almost literally the exact same thing. KC's defense, special teams did not get enough credit for this win. That fake punt attempt was like, if you've ever played and that happens at home, now I'm gonna kill you. I mean, now you literally walked into my house with shit on your shoes and trekked it all the way around my house. I'm out to kill you.
Fuck your couch.
Fuck your couch. And KC's defense, um, and much to Houston's inability to make any solid play calls. It's like that happened and they started to play safe and they started to call and dial up some bullshit. And Hopkins, I mean, it looked for much of that game, they just forgot they had this guy and they weren't targeting him, even though he can't be covered in certain instances. And, Casey's special teams came up on that punt, then on the kickoff, the fumble that went right into the dude's hands. The momentum just completely shifted, and Casey's defense and special teams came and they stepped up. Mahomes made it look extremely easy thereafter to score, score, score. But we got to remember, I think the Texans gave the Chiefs the ball back like 6 times in that quarter. They couldn't get anything off. So I think the real unsung heroes was KC's defense and their special teams. And then whatever coaching changes happened in the second half, or not even second half, but in that quarter, whatever Houston started out doing in the first quarter, they stopped doing it. They couldn't put a hat on Kelsey. Then they started going with man coverage. And at no point did they say, you know what, we're getting burned in man coverage. Kelsey's getting his way, he's having his way, he's doing whatever. At no point did they say, you know what, let's switch it up to the zone. Let's try to confuse Mahomes a little bit, because they were getting pressure on him. I think Mahomes had the most rushing yards on the entire team. And at some point,
Yep.
when you're running man coverage and everyone's just turning their back, no one's spying Mahomes, no one's blitzing him. You don't have zone coverage. I think this loss was a complete coaching blunder from top to bottom by Bill O'Brien. I mean, not taking anything away from Patty Mahomes, boy. He's phenomenal. I think he's the best quarterback in the league. When throwing the ball, because he just looks incredible just throwing the ball, just if you're just talking about throwing the football. But I think Bill O'Brien completely from top to bottom just botched this game. You got Romeo Crennel out there, who I used to think was a very good coach. I've questioned his ability to coach defense for some time now. And I think whatever changes they made or did not make, it completely fell on O'Brien. And I think this was his game and they lost it.
Yeah, it's hard to make a case for anybody else other than Pat Mahomes right now as the best quarterback in the league. I mean, there's guys out there that are good. This fucking guy, when he's on, he's fucking on, and even when he's off, he's fucking on. You know what I mean? It's crazy the type of shit that he can do, the throws he makes on the run, the throws he makes into tight pockets, the throws. I mean, the one thing that I would like to see a little more of from him, and may not prevent him from winning a Super Bowl, or it may is just his ability to change the play at the line, right? Not everybody has that. That was we saw that being a much bigger thing after Peyton Manning started to become his own offensive coordinator. Guys being trusted to make those changes, more often than not. But that's something that I would love to see out of him. And I think if he learns that, fucking guy will be 100% unstoppable. 100%, especially if he can get another good running back.
I agree.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that, Steve. I think part of that comes to with preparation, and not to say that Mahomes doesn't prepare, but being able to change the play at the line, you got to be able to recognize coverage. Know who the mic back is, who's blitzing, who's going in coverage, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe he just doesn't have that down yet. As much shit as I talk about Tannehill, that was a criticism I had of him for a while. And in his last year with the Dolphins, he was changing plays at the line like more than ever. And I thought that was some progress for him, even though he still is fucking trash. But maybe it just comes from a maturity thing. Like once you've had a couple years in the league, you got your process down on how you prepare and watch film and things you see, and maybe you start recognizing it. It's like Patrick Mahomes, his style of play is basically a cheat code already. But once he can start recognizing that coverage and being able to switch the play at the line, like this motherfucker is gonna be like in the Matrix or like some Beautiful Mind type shit, where it's like he's just seeing everything. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Yep. And you're right. When it comes with age, look at your guy.
Fitzpatrick.
This year, Fitz. Right,
Yeah.
Fitzmagic did a great job with changing plays and stuff for you guys. Was it enough? Not so much, but you guys
Mm-hmm.
definitely overachieved. How for how many weeks there were people saying that you guys were gonna go 0-out. So I
Yeah.
think did you end up
And
with more wins than the
Steve,
Jets?
No, they
No.
did not.
Oh, okay. So
but
so
but
you
nah,
guys
it's
did
it's
end
funny
up
you
as
bring
last
up
in the division.
Fitzpatrick. Yeah, pretty much. It was by design though. But 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 nah, it's funny you mentioned Fitzpatrick because I remember the game when they benched Rosen and put Fitzpatrick in,
Mm.
and me and my brother were talking, and I was like, "Yo, it's like," I was like, "You can watch this dude until he got years on him, like if you didn't know it, because you would see the protection breakdown, and you would just see him climb the pocket to extend the play." And you wasn't seeing that in Rosen, and you don't see that in a lot of young quarterbacks where they can, how they say you got to feel the pressure and have that internal clock and all that stuff they say about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And it was what we were not seeing Rosen doing, but Fitzpatrick was doing it over and over and over again, where it's like he had that internal clock. He felt the pressure. He knew when he had to climb the pocket. He knew when to change the play and all that stuff like that.
Yeah, and before we move to NFC real quick, I mean, this goes back to what I've been saying about young quarterbacks and my issue with Sam Darnold and why the Jets may never see the greatness that he possibly could be for years to come. If you notice, all of these young quarterbacks are holding the ball super long and they're not being able to read. And this stuff all comes from experience. Aaron Rodgers sat long enough. You even had Dalton at the end of the season burning defenses. You know what I mean? So I think the league has to finally realize and go back to realizing that you can't have these Andrew Luck RG3 scenarios again, because I think they really skewed it back to the idea that guys can come in and really change the game so fast, because there hasn't been guys like them since that didn't sit and have phenomenal years. Everybody that's even doing something right now has at least sat for one season. So, the league needs to really go back to realizing the older a quarterback gets, the higher his IQ gets.
Nah, no doubt, EJ, and I think that part of the problem is that we've had a couple of quarterbacks, and specifically I'm talking about Big Ben, who come in and they started from the jump and they had success, and it seems like the rest of the league thought that they could just replicate that. And with the Big Ben scenario, it was like catching lightning in a bottle because they had a great defense when they had Dick LeBeau as the defensive coordinator, had a great running game. They always were, like Steve always says, Pittsburgh has always drafted receivers well because their running game was so well. That already tells you they have a good O line. So when they put Ben in, he was just put in this great scenario. And you get a lot of these other young guys and they're not ready yet. These guys are kids. They're 21, 22 years old. 6 weeks ago, they were like the star on campus and trying to smash cheerleaders and shit. Now you've put millions of dollars in their pocket and say, hey, you got to lead our franchise out of mediocrity to glory. And that's a lot to put on some 21, 22-year-olds shoulders. So I think it would benefit some of these teams to allow these guys to sit behind a veteran and kind of learn the game a little bit, learn what it is you're supposed to do. And the last thing I'll say is that that reminded me of Hard Knocks when Cleveland Browns was on, and Hugh Jackson was talking to what was the quarterback they had, the black guy,
Sean Kaiser.
oh shit, I can't think of his name right. No, the one who Baker took over from, who took the job from. They got him from Buffalo.
Oh,
Was it Pryor? No, it
Oh,
wasn't Pryor.
oh shit. Something to no. He went to. If he's from Virginia,
Wasn't it like Tyrell, Tyreek?
I can't think of his name.
Yeah, but yeah,
Shit.
but whatever, but regardless, with him, uh, Hugh Jackson, they was one of the scenes on Hard Knocks. Hugh Jackson's talking to him, and he's like, yo, like, what's up with your boy? With your, or he's talking to Baker Mayfield, and he's like, yo, how come you don't come in with your boy 6 talking, or 5 talking about, that was the dude's number.
Tyrod Taylor.
And Baker was like, oh, I mean, I didn't know I needed to do that.
Tyrod
Tyrod Taylor,
Taylor.
there you go.
Yep.
And Baker was basically like, I didn't know I needed to do that, that kind of shit like that. But Tyrod Taylor, he was showing up at the facility at 5 a.m. because he was like, he needs to watch film before they go and practice. Meanwhile, Baker probably went out the night before the party, and he's showing up 5 minutes before practice starts, hey, I'm on time. But when you the quarterback, you got to do that kind of shit. And that's how you get better, to know how to feel the pressure, how to read the coverage, change the play at the line, etc.
Right, and that's also attributed to what people might call privilege. Right, you got Manziel, you got Baker, same type of guys, right? Thing about it is, if they're not successful, they have something to fall back on. Tyrod don't got shit to fall back on. He didn't have shit. He came from nothing. So 5 o'clock in the morning is worth it to keep his family fed. But yeah, to your point, sitting behind guys and getting older. I mean, when you think about like Russell Wilson, he didn't sit behind anybody because he stole the show. But he fucking, as he's getting older, we're seeing this guy has Tyler Lockett, then he has a rookie wide receiver in DK Metcalf. He has a tight end who came on in Hollister, right? And then all his running backs got hurt, and he's playing with a retired running back beast mode, who's a shell of himself. And the guy he can see shit breaking down, and he makes the plays with his legs and stuff like that. So to your point, as they get older, time in the league, you start to see more of it, and the expectation, right, from our standpoint, and as it should be from the coaches, is those older guys, due to experience, they should be able to make those plays. And we saw Russ make those plays. The problem is, Russ has been a slow starter all year. They've been having a lot of close come from behind games and last minute wins and shit like that. That shit don't play, and don't fly in the fucking playoffs, especially when you got Aaron Rodgers on the other side, where he is now running with a team where he doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times and they can be successful. Right? So if that running game is successful on any team, and then you say, oh shit, you know what? We do need to make a quick play. We need to kind of stretch this lead out a little bit. Hey, Ron, we need you to go out there and run this fucking next series all with your arm. And we saw that happen. We saw that happen where Devontae Adams scored, and they kind of started to blow the game open. Green Bay looked really good. They all year, they didn't look like a 13-3 team. You know what I mean? All year you saw Aaron Jones making, some big runs, breaking stuff open. Aaron Rodgers did not look like Aaron Rodgers that we know. Devontae Adams was really their only wide receiver that could catch anything. The other guys couldn't catch shit. Geronimo Allison, which everyone thought he was going to be something. They had Lazard come on at the end, who did a little bit of something. Jimmy Graham, I don't know what the fuck happened with him, man. That kind of tells us how good Drew Brees is, because once they pulled Jimmy Graham away from Drew Brees, fuck, that dude is trash. He's looked like trash ever since. He was garbage in Seattle, and he's garbage truck juice now in fucking Green Bay. That dude is terrible. And historically, Aaron Rodgers tight ends usually do. Let me take that back. Aaron Rodgers tight ends can catch touchdowns, and Jimmy Graham's just not making it.
Well, he had some pivotal catches that game, especially on third down. And to your point, Aaron Rodgers, and I remember this personally. Aaron Rodgers has been struggling to have consistency at tight end. The last time they won the Super Bowl, they had Andrew Corliss, who is from my hometown, played under me at some point. And he was a third round pick from Penn State. Andrew was very physically talented, but he had tons of drop passes. And, unfortunately for him, didn't get a shot after that because in Green Bay, if you're dropping passes from Aaron Rodgers, it's pretty much curtain for you. So, I mean, that's a excellent point. I don't know that Aaron Rodgers has really had a peak tight end in their prime. He hasn't had a Gronk. He hasn't had a Kels. You know, so that's an excellent point. I was pulling for Seattle on this one. I think Russ had some plays where he was a little off. He started out a little slow, and he's kind of been on that a little bit this year. But they were in Lambeau, and they I don't think they've won in Lambeau since John Kitna was the quarterback in like the 90s. So yeah, I mean it's a little bit of that. I don't want the Packers to go anywhere. So I was disappointed. I was actually rooting for Seattle, but yeah, good game.
Yeah, man. I agree with all of that, but I just the one thing I did want to say, I'm glad Steve brought up Marshawn Lynch beast mode. I wanted to say big shout out to that dude. I don't know if y'all caught his press conference after the game, but man, that dude, he's a good dude, man, and he sent like a great message to those young players. The thing that pissed me off the most about that thing was that Marshawn is out there dropping knowledge, wisdom to these young guys, and then the first question he gets after he's done is, "What was it like seeing Aaron?" It's like, yo, this dude is dropping knowledge, telling these young players, like, yo, take care of your body, take care of your money, take care of your mental health, so that way you can retire with dignity. And the first question, instead of saying, like, hey, can you give me an example, something like that, your first question actually is, how was it seeing Aaron Rodgers? Like, come on, dog. I thought that was some complete bullshit, yo.
Yeah, like he's supposed to be shell shocked by seeing fucking Aaron Rodgers. Get the fuck out of here. I'm with you, EJ.
Exactly.
I didn't want them to win. I was hoping Seattle would pull it out. Um, I hate Green Bay, but on the flip side, now I think about the Super Bowl. I don't know if I want to see San Fran in the Super Bowl because them motherfuckers are boring. Like a San Fran Tennessee Super Bowl is gonna be fucking boring, dog. Like I would like to see a Kansas City. I mean, because we have Green Bay to choose from, and even as much as I hate them, I would like to see a Kansas City Green Bay fucking Super Bowl just because there'll be tons of fucking scoring. Um, but I don't know, man.
And that would actually be a
I'm
rematch of the very first Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era in 1967.
right
Yeah,
now.
all too coincident.
Kind of, we forgot to talk about that other game, San Fran. I I thought Minnesota was gonna have a shot, but
Yeah,
like VP said,
more than that, you thought they would
and
beat
we talked about, yeah, I thought they were gonna win. I wanted them to win. But like VP said, and the one thing that I did say is is gonna require Kirk Cousins to be a winning Kirk Cousins, not a shitty Kirk Cousins. And the Kirk Cousins that showed up to that game, holy moly, um,
it.
he looked like shit. He looked like the most overpaid, underperforming quarterback in the league when they played. And San Francisco made light work. The one thing that pissed me off is Richard Sherman had that one fucking interception, and they made it seem like this guy fucking made a play. Like he fucking jumped a route, or he was just there. And Kirk Cousins made a Kirk Cousins type throw, and where he threw it to 25, but 25 just happened to be on the defense. And so that kind of frustrates me, man. The commentators, they're kind of they got to do a lot better with the NFL commentators, man. Between, we always talk about it, Booger with his fucking obvious bullshit, um, and Joe Buck, shit. Even Aikman gets a little frustrating at times. I mean, if they could just clone Tony Romo, the greatest commentator of all time, and just make a few more of him, uh, it'd be great. Actually, I think the greatest commentator, and this is not the same sport, but is Bill Walton. Bill Walton was my fucking guy, man.
It's horrible. Hate Bill Walton. I hate Bill Walton. He's horrible. Um,
Nah.
I think we underestimate the greatness of the 49ers defense. They have a pretty complete defense. Say what you want about Sherman. He plays that coverage game pretty damn well. On every level, the 49ers are dominating. And if you go back to watch games, even games that they lost, um, even versus a game that even a game versus Seattle where they lost, they've made opposing quarterbacks, play very subpar. And I was not surprised by this at all as I picked them. They didn't allow motherfuckers to run all over them. They didn't allow Cousins to have a lot of time. And I think that defense is really underestimated. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is, while he's not doing anything phenomenal, he is playing well enough to not just be a game manager. He is, game managing at times, but he is making things happen. So I think I agree that they're boring. A lot of defensive teams that aren't as flashy can be boring. But I think there's something to really contend with, and I think Green Bay is really going to have an issue with them. And I picked them. They're one half of my Super Bowl pick. I'm going to ride with them again versus Green Bay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. With the San Francisco, the thing with Sherman, though, Steve, I think is part of why they make a big deal when he does make a play, or even if he isn't making a play, but the ball is just gifted to him. Is that the rap on Sherman for at least this season is that he was coming off that injury, and in the off season he negotiated his own contract and made the contract very incentive based, since he was coming off that injury and people were thinking he was washed up, etc. And he's hit all of those incentives to get paid. And so it's one of those things like, Sherman bet on himself and won, that kind of thing. And so I think that's why they're making such a big deal when he does get a play. It's just because he kind of, he put his money on the line, and he did numbers to get paid. So I think that's why they hype it so much. But yeah, San Fran is a boring team, kind of like the NFL version of the San Antonio Spurs. But I don't think that Green Bay has enough for them, because San Francisco seems like a more complete team. I wasn't a big believer in Garoppolo, especially after he got that huge contract after only 6 starts. But it shows you that the Patriots drafted this guy to replace Brady for a reason, and not only that, he got to sit behind Brady. We talked a little bit a few moments ago about some of these quarterbacks need to sit and learn and things like that. And Tom Brady is another guy, even though I don't like the motherfucker, who is good at changing the play at the line, recognizing coverage. Now, it goes to say he maybe had tapes of those coverage, but he still was able to do it, right? Um, but but Garoppolo was able to be an understudy to Brady, and you're kind of seeing his greatness out there in San Fran. And I think that they beat Green Bay. I think that we end up seeing Green Bay. Not Green Bay, excuse me, but San Fran and KC, Miami.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Kansas City is good, right? But Kansas City's run defense is not the greatest. Derrick Henry's been putting up 180 fucking yards a game, And how do you beat a team with a good quarterback? You keep that quarterback off the field, right? Tennessee, it's going to require a lot for them to win that game. It's going to require them to be able to make a play early, like they did against Baltimore, right? And they're going to have to try and jump out to a quick lead of 14-3 or some crazy shit like that in order for them to have a shot, I think, at it, to where they can just pound the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And if they take three, it's okay to take three if you just took fucking 6 minutes off the clock. You know what I'm saying? 6, 7 minutes off the clock. Because now they have to try and come down and get seven to catch up to you pretty quickly. Because if not, you can take it to the half, right? And then now you got the second half kind of playing out the same way. So it's going to take a lot for Tennessee to win. But looking at the talent that's left in there, I got the 49ers and kind of talking about to EJ's point with the defense, 49ers defense got back Alexander
Yep.
and also D Ford.
Yep.
D Ford was a huge fucking comeback for them. I mean, timely as fuck, and he's going to be a huge difference maker, 100% Sunday against Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones for that matter. Um, in order for Green Bay to win that game, they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to play a flawless game. They're gonna have to get some play out of their fucking second wide receivers, third wide receivers, and hope that they don't get fucking sticky or slippery fingers and dropping shit, stone hands. But I don't think they have a shot. I think we do see, like VP said, San Fran and
Casey.
Kansas City in the Super Bowl, in Miami. And that's the way I think I'm rolling. What about you, EJ? As far as picks, I know you already had San Fran, but with Baltimore being out, what's your AFC pick?
If Kansas City starts out the way they did versus Houston and Derrick Henry gets going, um, I'm gonna go with them. As in Tennessee, I think Tennessee's defense has been highly underrated, and I think also that the key element here is that they've been playing with a serious chip on their shoulders. Um, and they have a mentality like they got shit to lose, and they're very dangerous. Um, yeah, I guess I'll still be 50% right if 49ers win. But I don't want to go against Mahomes because I actually like watching that team play. But I'm gonna pick the Titans, man. I'm gonna pick the Titans versus the 49ers.
And I hear what you're saying, EJ. I think my problem is it's kind of like I told your homeboy last week when we finished recording and he was talking about Minnesota, and I asked him, like, do you know that Kirk Cousins still play for Minnesota? And I feel that same way about Ryan Tannehill. And if not Tennessee, but if Kansas City can do what we know that they can do, which is score points fast, and they get up, 14, maybe 21 points, something like that, you're gonna have a neutralized Derrick Henry because, like I talked about earlier with Baltimore, once teams get up, people have to they have to adjust, and you can't run as much because you got to start trying to save that clock to come back. And if you can do that and you force Ryan Tannehill to have to throw to beat you, I just don't think, after watching this guy his whole career in Miami, I just don't think that he can do it.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. Um, I'm excited to watch these games this weekend, and of course get to the Super Bowl, um, to see what that's gonna look like, and that'll be interesting. Um, Big up to LSU, obviously. There was not much question there whether they were gonna win. I mean, Clemson, if you had a shot in hell for them to win, it was just a underdog story that you were praying for, because they are a good team, but LSU is just fucking extremely flawless. So national champions there. Um, Kind of running away from sports a little bit. The moment that VP's been waiting for. I know he's been sitting there with his sitting on his hands, just like, when are they gonna give me my give me my shot?
Coach.
I'm ready to roll.
Briefly before you do that, though,
Yesterday,
because
yeah.
you briefly touched on college football. Um, I don't know if anybody talked about it in the chat, but just pay attention to the Penn State situation. There's alleged hazing from last.
Oh yeah,
I've been adamant in saying
again.
fuck that program for years now. No offense to my good friends that played there, but yeah. So just pay attention to that. But carry on to the politics.
Yeah, Penn State needs to be fucking disqualified and just kicked out of the fucking NCAA. Their whole fucking academic their whole fucking sports department needs to be athletic department needs to be just get the fuck out of here, you fucking pigs. This motherfucker, you guys obviously know the story that the transfer, what he transferred to Cal, right? Most recent, he transferred to Cal, and apparently there was hazing, and they put their fucking dicks and balls in his fucking face and shit, and they reported it, and all they did was suspend one fucking player. Um, the coach. That's out of fucking control, bro. It's one thing to haze a little bit. It's one thing to give people a hard time. We know hazing is frowned upon because we live in a fucking cookie cutter snowflake fucking society where you can't even sit down at a fucking lunch table and fucking say mama jokes, or it's considered bullying. But hazing is at a whole nother level, man, and that is excessive. Fucking putting your listen, man. Let me tell you something, dog. I wouldn't have made it to Cal because I'd have got kicked out of school because you put your fucking dick in my face, joke or not, haze or not, we gonna have a problem, a huge problem, like a extreme problem.
Yeah,
Straight up.
agreed.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, wait for more to unfold, but yeah,
Fucking
just keep an eye
assholes.
on that for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's tough, man. I don't know. I kind of feel two ways
We lost you. Think we lost him. Gotta refresh over there. Yep. Yeah. Um. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just Penn State. It's out of control, man. But
It's
yeah,
crazy. And after the whole Sandusky shit, it just makes
they
it
should have never had a program after that. They should have
right.
never had a program. They should have gotten the death penalty at least for 4 to 5 years. But yeah,
Indeed. Indeed. Um so VP of Research. I know you've been geeking the fuck out about politics, and yesterday, Tuesday, was the most recent Democratic debate. Um and I didn't get to watch it. I was hanging out with your wife, uh, at bowling, of course. She bought me a drink and everything. Um, um, no, but yeah, we were at bowling yesterday, and so we didn't really get a shot. We didn't get a chance to watch. Um, so give me something, man. I saw you guys were criticizing my guy Joe, man. VP, give us a little recap of what we got there, and also some events that took place or were, I guess, slated to take place today.
So yeah, the last Democratic debate before the Iowa caucuses took place last night. The debate itself, man, it was more of the same, they talked about healthcare a bunch. They talked about some current things like impeachment, like Trump killing the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. Um, they've talked about things like student loan debt and the economy, just the typical stuff that you hear to debate. And the problem for me is that I feel like if you're somebody who watches all of these debates like I do, you're just hearing the same stuff over and over and over again. And it gets repetitive. It makes you almost want to tune out. And there are issues that people around the country care about that are not being discussed. Things like housing policies. I don't know. I follow a bunch of different newspapers on Twitter, and every, I would say, week, maybe 2 weeks, I see an article posted about housing. People can't afford housing in this city or that city, somewhere in the US, whether it's Miami, LA, New York, etc. Even here in Orlando where we live, they it's starting to become a problem. um that was a topic that wasn't even discussed, while they discussed education from the standpoint of student loan debt and things like that. But they didn't talk about education like in general. Like, what are we going to do to get these kids learning the things that they need to learn to be successful in life? And I just felt like it was a bunch of missed opportunities. There was also some squabbling over stuff to me that seems like it's inconsequential. Elizabeth Warren, through her people, they basically put out that Bernie Sanders told her in December of 2018 that a woman can't win the presidency. And so they had a little back and forth about that. Like stuff like that. It's like, we got this guy who's basically shitting all over the Constitution and the law, and you're talking about a conversation that happened between you two fucking a year and a half ago, or however long. Like, we got bigger fish to fry. You know what I'm saying? So it was just, it was, to me, it was just kind of, like, but even though I know EJ thinks that Biden doesn't look sharp, which I would agree to that to an extent. um I think Biden had one of his strongest nights of the debates, simply because nobody's really going after him. They're just kind of leaving him alone. And I think what they're doing is, I think they're doing what happened to Trump in 2016, where people say, this guy's the front runner, but I just need to get in that number 2 spot. Let me knock off some of these other challengers. And then once it's mano a mano between me and him, then I'm going to take him out. And that didn't work with Trump. And I don't think that it's going to work here. So that was kind of the debate in a nutshell. And the last thing I'll say on the debate is that I hate the format that they use, because the debate, it basically seems like the moderators are essentially asking questions in a way that creates conflict, right? You know, EJ, tell me why you would be a better president than VP. Steve, tell me why this person sucks. You know what I'm saying? And as a voter, like, you're not getting any real information. You know what I'm saying? It's just them trying to create conflict between the candidates or whatever. And I just think that's a bunch of bullshit. Back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean like, like the 60s or so, they used to have these organizations that had causes behind them run these debates, like the League of Women Voters, or like an organization like the NAACP, even though they weren't necessarily doing debates back then, but you understand the point that I'm making. And where those folks could do debates based on the issues that they cover. So the League of Women Voters might, bring up women's issues, where there's wages, jobs, childcare, family planning, long-term care for parents, things like that. And the debate would be centered around those kind of issues. The NAACP could talk about issues important to the Black community. Maybe a union sponsors a debate and they talk about issues that are affecting workers. You know what I'm saying? But we get political commentators and political journalists who do these debates, where all the questions are geared towards creating conflict. Hey, tell me why this guy's trash. And like, what does a voter get from that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
think you
EJ.
spot on in everything you assessed, and it seemed a little like emotional when on the part of Warren, and I know that kind of reads a little into obvious gender differences, but it just seemed as though, especially at the end, in the engagement where she was like talking to Bernie about something, and he kind of just like, nah, this. He kind of just walked away, like I'm walking away from this. Um, Creates a very adversarial debate. And like you said, I mean, they were literally asking setup questions to say, well, yeah, Biden voted for war, but you didn't. But then again, you did vote for the one this time. And it like you said, man, I felt the only person that seemingly presented a great plan was Warren in certain instances, as she took some time in certain answers to say what she actually wanted to do. But this really worries me at the end of the day, because whoever comes out of this debate, there is a lot of question as to, will they be able to beat Donald Trump? And I think that's what we got to get back to the focus of. While Biden has the popularity and he has the black de facto vote rather, from having ties to Obama. I've said it before. I've said it from the beginning. He does not look sharp. He looks very slow in his responses and his ability to be witty. Even reading his final statement, he just was glued down to the paper. Um, I don't know that I would want to see him in a debate versus Donald Trump. Say what you want about him. Anyone that follows this podcast knows that we can't stand him. We don't like him, whatever the case may be. But he will eat Biden alive in a debate. Bernie, you guys have said it. He looks like the cynical, crazy old man. Um, Oftentimes, while I think he has a great love and passion, he's older than Biden is. The only thing that I really like from him at this juncture is that he's talking about wiping away student loan debt. Elizabeth Warren, I believe, has some good policies. She wants to wipe away student loan debt as well. But this nonsense that happened um, worries me, because then that being again presents another platform where you have someone versus Trump, who he might run circles around and be extremely disrespectful on. And I don't know how it's going to look, and we know his base is going to vote how they're going to vote regardless. But it's just very scary to me. The other candidates up there, uh you know really don't do anything for me. I mean, I could see them obviously in other roles, but yeah, man, I mean, the field pretty much scares me, and I agree with you 100%, VP, on that debate. I agree.
And the thing too with what you were saying as far as when things get down to the nominee, whoever it is that's going to face Trump, the problem is that I've said this before, is that whoever the Democratic nominee is, whether it's Biden, Bernie, Warren, whoever, they don't have to run against just Trump. They're running against Trump. They're running against the Russians. They're running against the media. And the reason why I always bring up the media is that the media sanitizes Trump in a way where people don't really understand how bad this dude is, right? So while last night was a Democratic debate, Trump was holding a rally in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And at that rally, it was the typical batshit crazy Trump, where he talked about some things like, killing the Iranian general. He talked about the stock market hitting an all-time high this week. He talked about the tax cut bill they passed, and getting all these judges on courts, the normal stuff, the braggadocious stuff that you would hear any president talk about, right? But then he goes on and starts talking about crazy shit like people are telling me they can't flush the toilet, and you got to flush 10 times before it goes down, and it takes 2 hours to take a shower, and I'm looking at this, and I'm gonna get it fixed, and yada yada yada, and it's like this rambling, like crazy shit. It sounds like you're talking to your old uncle at Thanksgiving who is starting to go see now, right? But when you watch the media report on this, and a perfect example of this was NPR, the radio station, when they did their recap of Trump's rally last night, they had a 34-second clip that essentially said, Trump held. I got it here. It basically said Trump had a wide-ranging speech that mentioned specific topics like Iran and impeachment. But the thing goes on to admit all of the batshittery. You know what I'm saying? And so it made me think about. We talked about him last time. Steve's Republican friend, who thinks that we should, when we talk about Trump, we should present his side of things, right? And I read this thing on Yahoo News that characterized this thing perfectly. And it talked about much of Trump's undignified, childish, and insulting behavior goes the same way. It reverberates across Twitter to his adoring fans. It provokes outrage amongst his critics, but most Americans are never exposed to it. It said that makes a crucial difference to public perception. The casual observer, to the casual observer, Trump seems normal and acceptable because you have people out there who don't follow the news as closely, and to them, Trump seems like a normal guy because when they watch the news that tells them what the president did, it says Trump had the rally in Wisconsin and he discussed a wide range of topics from Iran to impeachment. That just sounds like normal presidential shit. They don't know that he's talking about you can't flush your toilet and all this bullshit like that, you know? And I think that the media needs to do a better job of trying to cover that shit. But also people on our side of things need to stop being afraid to call that shit out, to say, look, this guy is fucking crazy and we can't afford 4 more years of him.
Right. So do you guys, what VP, probably this is better for you. What do you think the odds are of potentially seeing a Biden Warren ticket?
0.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is that the Democratic Party is a diverse party. The Republican Party is a party that's made up almost exclusively of white people, and specifically and particularly white old men. The Democratic Party is more diverse. And this year, we're already seeing problems with diversity in the party in terms of the field that's left in the race, where it's basically white men and white women. All of the candidates of color have either dropped out of the race or they'll be dropping out soon due to not being able to make the debates. Once you can't make the debates, that's going to make your fundraising start to dry up, which is one of the metrics they use for qualifying for the debate. So on the ticket this year, there's already talks about moving the primary from Iowa first, a state that's like 90-something% white, to a more diverse state like a South Carolina or Nevada, something like that, right? But on this year in particular, the ticket is going to have diversity. There's going to be a person of color and a woman on the ticket. If Biden is the VP, his VP nominee will be either a black woman or a black man, but it's not going to be 2 white candidates on the ticket. So that's why I don't think Warren has a shot of being Biden's VP, as well as her age. Even though I don't necessarily believe in ageism, if you can still do it, you can still do it, right? It shouldn't matter if you're 80 or if you're 50. But at the same time, people always talk about wanting something new and wanting that fresh face. And Warren is almost 70 years old. And even though she seems young at heart and she has so much energy and passion, etc., I don't think that she's going to be on the ticket. I don't think you can have a white man, an old white man, and an old white woman on the ticket.
Makes sense. Do you feel like EJ feels? Do you feel like Trump can beat or embarrass Joe Biden in a debate?
So yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no is that the yes portion of it is that when you listen to Trump debate, even if you go back and watch him debate Hillary, Trump doesn't talk about anything, right? They ask him a question about the economy, and he says, he says, right now the economy is terrible and Obama's doing a terrible job because he doesn't know anything about business. He doesn't know how to negotiate. And when I get in there, I'm gonna bring in people who are killers. They're sharks. People who've made so much money and they're gonna do so many great things for the country because I know the best people. And once I get them in there, they're gonna do the best because they are the best. And he essentially says things like that over and over about every topic where you don't mention anything specifically. You don't say how you're going to do it. It's just, you're going to put in this magic great person and they're going to use their greatness to create all this greatness. You know what I'm saying? Whereas a person like Biden is a lifelong politician. And when he answers that question about the economy, he's going to talk about how he's going to implement this plan and they're going to change this one thing by 2.5%, and that 2.5% is going to create this kind of growth in this thing, and it's going to do that down the line, and da 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 da. And Trump's going to be like, yeah, that's stupid, because this guy's dumb. And so it depends on how you're judging it. Some people may look at that and say, oh, he destroyed Biden. Other people are going to look and say Trump's a fucking idiot, right? Now, when that stuff when it goes through the filter and it's put out to the public, because when they have these debates in September, there's only going to be about 9 million people who watch, right? And the rest are going to see clips through their news media. Does the news media sanitize the shit to say they discussed a wide range of topics at the debate, and President Trump touted his success with the economy, and Biden talked about how he can do better, and then move on? Or are they going to show him saying, we're going to be so great because I know great people? You see what I'm saying? So that's why I say yes and no.
That's par for the course, and we've seen that happen. My problem is, and good goddamn well, and you motherfuckers need to stop going to bat for Uncle Joey. I love him too, but he is not fucking sharp enough. He is not. At some point in a debate, you have to have the show, you have to have the facts, you have to make sense, right? We all know Biden is smart enough to know, because he's not formulating a lot of this shit on his own. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but at this age and this stage in his game, I don't think he's formulating a lot of this shit on its own. You can see a lot of this is textbook. He's like the quarterback, the punch drunk quarterback, who's literally going in there with the plays on his arm, and they're like, one, Joe, just go call play number one. Don't call shit else unless I tell you to. This is exactly what's happening. He's not sharp enough right now at this point to be witty enough to ensure that he makes Trump look like an idiot, to ensure that he takes his time to display and go on the fly to tell us what he's going to do. He is not sharp enough right now. He is absolutely not sharp enough. If we want to talk about popular vote and who will get it because of what they've done, that's him all the way. I agree. Not even going to debate that no more. But when we're talking about getting up there, and like you said, there's going to be idiots or people that are going to look at it one way, look at it another way. We need a candidate that's going to encompass all of that. They're going to need to say the facts. They're going to need to think on the fly. They're going to need to think for themselves. And they're going to need to be able to challenge this fucking idiot and say, you haven't said anything. And Biden is not in a capable place to do that. We even talked about the last round of debates on how Lemon and other moderators lobbed him the easiest things he can take to propel himself and knock them shits out the park. And he just let it on go. He let it on go. He is not looking good. I'm sorry. And as much as I would love for him, at this point, we all have agreed, anybody but Donnie at this time. This motherfucker Joe is not sharp, bro. I'm sorry. He's not. He's not.
So
And I know we hate to say it, but he's not sharp.
So if we don't think and this has been kind of ongoing, right? You said he's not sharp. He hasn't been sharp, right? But if he's not sharp now, then he's not going to get there. In your eyes, right? And because it's very late. It's not like this is just the first debate or the second debate, right? There's been plenty, right? But what's the potential or possibility, and either of you can jump in on this one, that perhaps he's struggling or having challenges because he's debating his own party, right? Do you think that he gets stronger or he gets better when he's debating and he's working against Donnie or whoever the Republican uh, candidate is?
I got no faith in him. I don't. It makes sense that, and that's a great way to look at it, because who better to beat you other than your own crew, so to speak, because they know where the skeletons are buried. But at this juncture, man, I just really doubt his mental capacity. And I'm not blaming it on age. I just don't know that, he's had years of this political experience, and he's been through a lot of drag out politics stuff, and maybe he's just tired at this point. I don't know, but he literally looks like he's not doing anything on his own merit right now. His answers are they're so robotic, they're so lacking of passion. It's almost like he doesn't even believe half the shit he's saying sometimes. And he's a totally different guy than when they ran years ago, when I mean, I remember the VP stuff years ago. He was flawless. He was sharp. He was flawless. It was like, nah, he got that shit. Don't worry about it. He was a killer up there. Now he really looks like a withered old man that really doesn't know where he's at. I mean, I'm serious.
So, Steve, to that question that you asked, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think that it does have some merit that maybe if he was going against a Republican, maybe he could be a little bit sharper. And I don't necessarily mean mentally; I just mean like throwing sharper elbows, throwing some harder jabs and things like that. So that may be a thing. But at this point, I think Biden looks like a guy who's 77 years old, and there are some senior moments when he's talking, and I think that that's just kind of is what it is. It's not, it's no, I can't make an excuse for it. But like EJ did say, if you're somebody who's watched Biden for a long time, then you can see he's not as sharp as he used to be. Like, he's lost a little bit off the fastball. A lot of people in 2008, when Biden ran for president against Obama, Hillary, and the rest of them, a lot of people say that Biden ended Rudy Giuliani's presidential run, because Rudy Giuliani was running on the Republican side and, using all his 9/11 hype and stuff like that, right? And they asked Joe Biden a question about something that Rudy Giuliani had said about the Democratic field. And Joe Biden gives this answer that just, it made Rudy Giuliani look like shit. And he was like, I'm so tired of hearing about Rudy Giuliani. He's like, anytime you hear Rudy Giuliani speak, there's a noun, a verb, and 9/11. And that shit. and he just like left it there, like complete mic drop. You know what I'm saying? And that shit was all over the political news. And I mean, it was on the comedy show, the late night comedy shows, the news shows. And Rudy was just done after that, yo. Because he basically said, yo, this motherfucker don't say anything about nothing. A noun, a verb, 9/11. So,
Right.
and that Biden is not here anymore. He's not sharp like that no more. So, to your point, when he gets in a debate with Trump, I don't think he can have a moment like that where he just destroys Trump in one sentence or two, like he did to Rudy, 10 years ago. But, you know, if he's the nominee, man, like, as long as this motherfucker's not senile or has dementia or some shit, I'm voting for him. So, you know,
Yeah, and I think that's how the Democratic Party, or anyone who's not supporting Dodo is thinking, right? But there's still the chance and there's still the need for everything you can get, and I'll stand on it to the day it ends. that I just feel like Donnie T can't get put back in there. And I think our best shot at it is right now. And you said it before, VP, and you know, it makes 100% now. Is as much as Elizabeth Warren looks great, and it'd be awesome to have a woman president. It'd be awesome to make history. Now is not the time to attempt it. Because the failure to make history can result in another type of history, right? As we've
Mm-hmm.
seen, the one thing though, Donald Trump is a fucking idiot. He is probably the hands down the worst president we've ever had.
all time.
But you got to give a slight credit where slight credit is due, right? And
Hmm.
we didn't talk about it last time, and we even though we talked about the potential of World War III, um, he could have, and it would have been very expected for him to just go off the deep end because he's a big fucking bully. Even though Iran was like, "No, we don't want the smoke," he could have just jumped off the deep end and said, "Nah, fuck that, dog. You sent something." You know what I mean? And he
Don't
didn't.
bitch up now.
And I'm sure behind closed doors that was probably his knee jerk. That was probably his first reaction. But a little bit of maturity, a little bit of growth potential to allow somebody to talk him out of that. You give him a little bit of credit. You got to give him a rose. He doesn't get a dozen flowers, but I'll give him a rose on that one. And that's basically where that stops for me.
So
I
just
don't.
in
I don't. And the reason why I don't is that I understand what you're saying, and I'm glad that we didn't go into a war with Iran, because Iran is not Iraq. We wouldn't have run through that country in 3 weeks like we did um, um, in Iraq. And they have a real army, they have a real air force, they have a real navy, and while they can't compare to our military strength, they can be a problem. You know what I mean? But the reason that this thing all had to happen is because of Trump. So Trump essentially is a guy who is the arsonist who is telling you he should get credit for putting the fire out. You know what I mean? And you see these things all over the place. Um, a couple of
right.
weeks ago, Trump signed an executive order that fixed some shit in housing policy that he fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So he signed an executive order when he first came into office, changing his housing policy. It went to shit, and then he signed another one fixing it, and then says, "Hey, look at this shit I did." You know, you can't have it both ways, man. You don't
So
get to you don't get to bathe yourself in shit and then take credit because you took a shower.
this just in though on the debate, at the end of the debate, you can actually see it in what I was talking about, the brief exchange between Sanders and Warren.
Yeah, I
CNN
saw it.
released it saying Warren came up to him. Warren came up to Sanders saying, "I think you called me a liar on national TV." Sanders responds, "What?" And she repeats, "I think you called me a liar on national TV." And Sanders says, let's not do that. Do it right now. If you want to have that discussion, we'll have that discussion. Sanders said, to which Warren replied, anytime. So Sanders went out to shake her hand, and she refused to kind of do that and have that exchange, which I think for the benefit of the entire party right now, and even any potential of them working together to ensure Donald Trump doesn't win, whoever the candidate is, I think is damaging. And I think, she might get criticized big time for that. So just something to pay attention to.
Real
And not
mature, Elizabeth. Real mature.
and not just that, like that's another thing that scares me about the election. I talked about having to go against the Russians, the media, etc. The other thing that scares me about this election is the Bernie Sanders voters. A lot of these people, the Bernie bros, as they call themselves, the people who are feeling the burn and all that shit, is
Feel
that they go hard for Bernie, and a lot of them are Bernie a bust. And when you look at this last election, right? I saw a news organization I follow put out this graphic where it shows um the states that allowed Trump to become president, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, when you look at the primary in Michigan, Sanders got 598,000 votes. 8% of Sanders' primary voters voted for Trump. That 8% equals 47,000 votes. Trump won Michigan by 10,000 votes. Pennsylvania, Bernie got 730,000 votes. 16% of Bernie voters in Pennsylvania voted for Trump. That 16% equals 117,000 votes. Trump won Pennsylvania by 44,000 votes. And the same thing is repeated in Wisconsin. I'm not going to go through the numbers, but it's the same thing that's basically repeated there. And so I think that this thing that happened with Warren and just the Bernie stands in general might fuck around and flip this election to Trump because they're pissed off that Bernie is not the nominee. Because as popular as he is with young voters, as popular as he is with people who want him to cancel student loan debt, who want universal health care, et cetera, the people who love him, who love his policy, et cetera, Bernie doesn't have the core support of the Democratic base, which is black people. And he gets black support, but his black support comes from young voters. Young people normally don't show up to vote. Those old black voters who are supporting Biden like 50-something%, they're going to show up and vote for this dude. You know what I'm saying? And that's why Bernie is not going to be the nominee. And do these people decide to sit on their thumbs or vote for Trump because they're pissed off that Bernie didn't get in?
Right. Yep. I think that's we're gonna be in a world of hurt if that happens again. You talked about it last time with Hillary. You know, obviously she got the popular vote, but it was the spite votes. The spite votes was the difference. And I can't trust her, and I can't trust him. So let me just not. You know what I mean? Or let me just go somewhere else. That's what, and hopefully, right? You got to hope that has been fixed. People have learned their lesson, right? And 4 years of fucking terror with this guy. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like domestic terrorism with this guy. Because he's just a fucking horrible individual. You have to hope mostly that people have woken up and that we'll see some change in the patterns. So whomever that candidate is, right? The most important thing is getting people to support. So let's hope for it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say real quick. I know we're kind of closing up this politics section of the cast. But just today, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, forwarded over the articles of impeachment to the Senate. She also picked the managers for the impeachment trial. Basically, the managers act as the prosecution team. She picked 7 folks from Congress, including local congresswoman for us, Steve, Val Demings. She's not our congresswoman, but she represents parts of Orlando. She used to be the city of Orlando police chief before she went to Congress. So those folks will be the ones who prosecute the case against Trump in the Senate. Kind of schedule of events, in case folks are wondering, is that tomorrow on Thursday, January 16th, around noon, the House managers are going to come back to formally introduce the charges to the Senate at 2 p.m. Tentatively, because these things will never run on time with politics. But around 2 p.m., the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will be sworn in as the presiding officer, and then he'll go ahead and do the oath to the senators who are going to act as jurors. And then basically next week, Tuesday, is showtime when the actual trial of Donald Trump for impeachment will begin in earnest, and then that trial will basically run its course until it's over. Last thing on that is that for folks who are kind of political junkies like me, February is going to be a slam-packed news month. For February, we got February 2nd, Super Bowl. February 3rd, Iowa caucuses. February 4th, State of the Union. February 7th, debate. February 9th is the Oscars, and then whatever controversy comes up from that shit. February 11th, New Hampshire primary. February 19th, another Democratic debate. February 22nd, Nevada caucuses. February 25th, another debate. February 29th, another primary in South Carolina. And during all of that, impeachment is going to be happening. So it's going to be a lot of politics in February. So prepare yourself.
Yep. And hopefully in February we'll find out who the fuck shot Ghost because we got what, 3 weeks left? Three episodes. So if we're looking at this Sunday, next Sunday, and if they don't fucking pause it, we should probably find out February 2nd who the fuck killed Ghost. God, Jesus, how could they do that? A whole fucking episode for pause. That shit was so terrible. The acting, bro, the acting between her and the
son,
her son, dog. It was painful. It was fucking painful. No, Mom. How could we do this, Mom? What the fuck? Dog. Oh, it was so bad. It was terrible. It was terrible.
The best guy right now on the show is the new prosecutor, yo. He's the funniest motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh, the ball guy.
Yeah. Well, he's now off the show.
Right.
You talking about the ball guy, EJ?
Mm-hmm.
You talking about the ball guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now now Tommy's mom came out, right? And they were talking about she said her other son, right? The one that doesn't care about her, which I'm assuming she means Tommy. Do you think that it's possible that Tommy was the brother of God damn it, I lost the train of thought. The fucking who's the white dude that got killed in this episode?
White dude that got killed in this episode.
Was it the episode prior? Fuck me, man. I just lost my whole train of thought.
White dude that got killed in this episode or prior. I don't remember any white dudes getting killed.
Yeah, I don't either.
Fuck.
Not talking about Benny, right?
No, not Benny. I'm thinking of Cop.
It wasn't Sax.
No, Sax isn't dead.
Sax ain't dead. I don't remember any cops getting killed.
Yeah, me either.
Fuck Steve been watching.
You guys talk about it. I'm gonna find it.
The whole Paz shit. She rolls up in the nightclub with a pistol. She's jumping out of the car with a pistol in downtown Manhattan. I mean, come on. And then it was just like we thought it would be. Oh, now we're gonna run through a whole nother recap of this person's account. Like, come on, dog. Like, this shit was just, man, it was nasty. It was nasty.
Yeah, it was bad, man. And the thing is that even though I think the whole recap idea is terrible to begin with, is one thing if you do a recap on an actual secondary character like a Tasha, like a Tariq, right? But to do a recap on a character that's been on the show, Paz has been in like what 10 episodes out of 6 seasons, and you give her a whole show. You know what I'm saying? At least somebody like Dre has basically been there from almost the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. But Paz, you know, she comes in, she might have 4 lines in a whole episode, and you dedicate a whole show to her, yo. That was insane to me. That was just like a big fuck you to fans. Like, yo, we know y'all love this show, and we know y'all sticking around, so we're gonna give you this filler bullshit, so we can finish out what we're trying to do or whatever. And it was completely fucking terrible, yo. completely terrible. But I don't know. I don't think that my working theory here is on Ghost is I don't think anybody killed Ghost. I think he did it to himself. And what's leading me to that is that or not, maybe not killed. I don't think he's dead, but at least who shot him. The reason that leads me to that is kind of last season with him seeing Angie's ghost and him wanting to be with her and all this kind of stuff like that, and them talking about how all these people that he's hurt. Tasha saying he broke up the family, broke up the marriage, and then Paz is like, "You killed my sister," da 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 da. Things are bad with him and Tariq. Things bad with him and Tommy. He lost Raina. The other kid they have is almost like she's in witness protection. You don't even see her anymore.
Right.
She's almost like remember old girl from Family Matters? She went upstairs and never came back.
She's Judy.
So, it's almost like some shit like that with that other kid. I don't even remember her fucking name.
Judy.
No, the kid from Power, the baby.
Oh shit, yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, good.
But
that one.
But yeah, so I think with him changing the will to give Paz money and shit like that, that's why. And then you see Tasha showed up to get money, so I think he may have did it to himself to go be with Angie, in the afterlife kind of shit.
No, definitely not. I think you're fucking batshit crazy on that one. What do you think, EJ?
Yeah, I don't get it at all. But why he would disappear when everything is on the up and up for him, I don't know. One could only think that he faked it, or I don't know, man. And again, I knew the writing was gonna be ass when I watched the Power Confidential and the young guy, talking about the season. I just knew it was ass, and everybody's trying to be clever and witty. Yeah, we went back and we covered everybody's perspective and we covered their emotions. We covered their range of this and that. It's like, yeah, you could say the most witty and do the most witty, clever shit you want, but if it's not entertaining, it fucking sucks, man. And then we just have Paz running through the city just like a mad woman, like acting crazy. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And then you don't want to take the money. Like, it's just like, come on, man. What are you really doing?
Yeah. And the thing is though, is that it's one thing, like, we've all seen any show that you watch where they do some fan service where you see something that was put in there clearly for fans. But you can't tell me that there was fans of Power saying, man, I wonder what Paz was doing leading up to Ghost getting shot.
Right.
Like, nobody cares about fucking Paz. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's, like I said earlier, she's not even a secondary character, She's the sister of a secondary character who's dead now. So why do we give a fuck about her perspective? That shit was insane, man. This season, or not this season, because this is just the second half of the final season. This half of the season has just been terrible to me. First, a whole episode on Dre. At least he was in the show the whole time, almost. And then this whole episode on Paz. Now we probably got to do an episode on Tasha and Tariq, and then an episode on Tommy. And then on the final episode, we're going to see what happens. And it's like, come on, dog. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, and then she goes to Tommy's house. And so you mean to tell me within that span of time, he moved out and all of that, she's in the middle of the crib. His name, like, come on, man.
Every time, and then they're when they were showing the recap of her in the club with Ghost there, and she pulls the gun out. All them people standing around, nobody noticed the bitches pulled the gun out
saw that
fucking out of her purse. Oh my god!
And she got in a New York City club with no bag check. Come on, dog. This ain't 1990. The fuck? Come on, man. That shit was ridiculous.
And with TV shows, you have to stretch your imagination sometimes. I mean, TV and movies couldn't happen without coincidence. You know what I'm saying? So some stuff you got to kind of stretch the imagination. But you going, like, nobody said something to this chick who is everybody in that club was wearing, all the men had on suits and all the women were dressed like in nice attire. This chick got on this big ass like Michelin Man jacket, purse, pulling guns in and out of her purse. Nobody saw that shit. Like, come on, dog. Like, are you fucking serious, man? Like, it's almost like the people who made the show have never been in a club.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
Right.
ridiculous. Like she didn't even dress the part. Like her name was just on the guest list. It's just like,
mm-hmm.
and then the thing is, now we forget we made Ghost this guy who's literally invincible, while
Mhm.
he's not only a drug mastermind, entrepreneur, he's a savage killer who's plans out and plots out your chess moves 6 steps ahead. So he sees Paz
Mm-hmm.
coming. He analyzes her body language and what's going on, and he was just gonna sit there and get dropped. Come on, dog. Like it's crazy, man. This shit's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, now apparently there's a spin-off coming, and two of the actors or the two people that have been cast for it are Method Man and Mary J. Blige. So I don't think
Like,
I'm not sure we see this getting any better anytime
supposed to be
soon.
what, young ghost and Tasha?
Method Man's gonna be a lawyer. I don't know who Mary J. I don't know her role at all. But
Oh.
Method Man gonna be like this dirty lawyer.
It's a
Yeah.
prequel, power prequel. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm straight.
Yeah.
I'm straight.
Free Boosie. I think this is one appropriate time in which the black community can actually say free someone that's in jail. Free Boosie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let him out. Let him walk. He did a favor to a lot of people. Um, so yeah, I think we're at a good stopping point, man. Lots of good substance today. Good dialogue, and where we stand on this fine evening, which is now the wee hours of Thursday morning, will allow the VP of the research team to do what he do and take us home.
All right, everybody. I want you to just sit down and just think for a second that every decision you've made in your entire life caused you to be listening to my voice right now. Let's think about that. But anyway, life is about choices. We glad you made the choice to rock with us. We hope that you'll make one more choice, one more decision, and go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, follow, like, share, comment, all of that stuff. You can find us on all your social media at Castworthy, on Instagram at Castworthy_podcast. And tell us what you want to hear from us. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Dialogue with us. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, make sure you taking care of your chicken, and take care of your mentals and your body. And we'll see you next week with a new host of topics. Peace.
Indeed.
Aaron Hernandez, Doc.